Hey, I'm glad you've turned up. I've been wanting to show you something. You know how I build these stoves out of old LPG cylinders and people use them in tiny houses and boat cabins and yurts and things like that. Great for the off-grid lifestyle. I've been making these things for a long time and I've discovered certain ways of doing things. So what I use this for is just taking out the corners after I've welded the hinges on. I weld the hinges on first so that it makes sure that the door stays exactly where it should be in the door hole. But with a cutting disc on the grinder, you can't get into these corners. So I use this to put in here and just take out the last little piece in here. And I've had this for a couple of years and it only really gets used for this one job. Yeah, I've taken it out into the garden and I've cut the odd tree branch with it with the big gnarly blade on it, but most of the time it sits here and only gets used when I'm doing this kind of work. But over the last few months, the weirdest things happened. I've noticed that when I use it, it's developing this terrible sideways dance. I don't know whether you can see that from there, but it happened rather suddenly. So I imagined that something had come adrift inside, and if I got to it quickly, I could probably save it. And now you're about to see what I discovered 2 days ago when I opened this up. So, it's my second time in here. As I said, I was in here yesterday, and I'll show you what not yesterday, 2 days ago. So I'll show you what I found. You can see here that that should not be moving as much as it is. And what I discovered is that cheeky Ryobi assembled this thing absolutely bone dry. The lubricant that you can see in here was put in by me as a last resort to try and make this thing last a little longer. And I'll tell you something else I did too. Inside this part here, there are two little blocks that it runs in, slides back and forth, and they have no lubrication in them whatsoever. It's an obvious case of planned obsolescence. I would have loved to have got more than 2 years out of it, but you know how it is. When you buy one of these systems where you use the same battery in all your tools, you get sort of committed to it. And I'm so deep in with Ryobi now that I can't go chopping and changing to some other brand. But here's the issue. These blocks here are what this runs in, and they were bone dry from new. So I lubricated it to try and make it last a little longer, but I've got this awful sideways movement that I can't do anything about. And I thought, well, if I just take it all apart, I'll swap these two blocks over because the worst wear is in this one, and I'll put that in the front. And this front one, which has got less wear, can go in the back. But no, cunning Mr. Ryobi makes these two a slightly different size so that they can't be interchanged. What I did do though was I grabbed a little bit of that steel strapping, the banding that comes around big bundles of heavy things that you buy in timber yards and things like that, posts and rails. And I cut that up, cut a little section of it, and I made a shoe to slide inside this back block. It took out some of the slop, but it certainly didn't take out all this sideways dancing that's going on here. So The reason I'm showing you this is because if you have one of these things right now, not next week, not tomorrow, do it now. I want you to do what I did to this one straight away. Get some grease on it. Make it last. Otherwise, you're just wasting your money. Unfortunately, what I've had to do, because I can't fix it, is I had to order another one. So this has just arrived. Like I said, I'm in pretty deep with Ryobi now. There's not much I can do about it. So what I'm going to do now is take this one apart, check it for lubrication, and try and make it last a little longer than this one. This one is just a little deeper than all the others, and my socket won't let me go deep enough, so I have to do that one out of the socket. Oh, that one looks the same. Yeah, that one's a little bit tight too. Right. Bet you I find exactly the same thing. There you go. Bone dry. Not a hint of lubrication. Nothing. If there was any... Oh, hang on. No. No, absolutely bone dry. So what I'm going to do before I even put a battery in this thing and use it is I'm going to put a nice dollop of grease on either side of this arrangement, one here, and I'm going to put some medium weight oil onto these two pivots, and that should stop that wearing prematurely. As you can see, only 2 years. And it's only been used for one job. All I do is cut the corners out of these. I may have cut the odd bit of timber in the yard with it, but I've done no demolition work. It doesn't get used for other jobs. It lives here and does this. So, what have I got here? Some multi-purpose grease. And we only need the merest little wipe of it. So I'm going to put a bit on there, and then I'm going to move it to the other end and put a bit on there, and I'm going to try and get some underneath as well and on the sides. And then we'll drop a bit down in here. Right, now in here I've got a little automatic transmission fluid, which is a lightweight mineral oil, and I'm going to put some of that on each of these two joins. And then what I'll probably do is just put the battery in and give it a slight run up and check that everything's all, and check that all's well. So there's the battery in. Now this is the blade release, and to get this back into the housing you actually have to open that flap and feed it through the slot. Once you've done that, this will then drop down and sit where it's supposed to, and you can put the whole shebang back together again. Right. Now you shouldn't have to do that, Mr. Ryobi, if you're watching. But I'm convinced that this one will give me more than 2 years. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, I'm going to be back real soon with something brand new and exciting, because I'm moving away from making these things. These little stoves are only going to be available if I feel like it. Because in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to be delving into something brand new and very exciting, and I want to share it with you. So tune in. If you haven't subscribed, do that. That way you'll get a notification when the next video comes. And just to help me stay ahead of the algorithms, I'd really appreciate it if you could just hit the like button and maybe make a comment down below and tell me what your luck's been like with power tools. Oh, yeah, this. I was buffing the rust off a horseshoe with the wire buff and it flicked up and hit me in the face. But I was wearing safety glasses.